Okay, it's 7 p.m. We shall begin. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Rent Stabilization Commission meeting of the City of West Hollywood tonight on Thursday, March 25th, 2021. I call this meeting to order, and please everyone follow me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all. Okay, Mr. Secretary, can we have a roll call, please?
Commissioner Bergstein?
Here.
Commissioner Copeland?
Here.
Commissioner Ayers?
Commissioner Ayers, can you unmute yourself?
Can you hear me, Commissioner Ayers?
Commissioner, she probably doesn't hear us.
Let me send a message. Hi, Commissioner Ayers, can you hear us?
She can't.
Hi, Commissioner Ayers, can you hear us?
Can we call her?
I have her number, I think. Wait, no, I don't. Yes, I do, I think.
Commissioner Maggio's got it figured out.
Okay, good. I don't after all.
I think she's not muted, but she can't hear us for some reason.
Can you see this?
I only see like the W on it, Richard. Oh, it's not lined up so we can see the whole thing.
Oh, that's a UN. I guess it was a little fancy. Was
She is unmuted. She just can't hear us, I think.
because
Yeah,
her
she can't hear
volume on
us.
her keyboard may be down.
Well, we need to solve this, I guess, before we can move on. I sent the chat, but she's not responding either.
Doesn't seem to be seeing this either.
Yeah, there's a connection issue.
Yeah, I thought I have her number, but I don't. Oh, we've all got it in that booklet we were given that Roger sends around.
Yeah, I was just thinking, where's my booklet?
Mr. Secretary, can I'm looking for the booklet, but I think maybe you can look at, you find it faster.
Yeah, no problem. I'll try giving her a call.
Mm-hmm.
It looks like she has her headphones on. Maybe they're not plugged in right or something. I don't know.
Maybe if we all turn off our camera and she's the only one left, she'll wonder what's going on.
We have a quorum. So we
Right,
can start the
but
meeting.
we need to know that she can hear us so we can continue.
Josh, how about everybody turn off their video except me and I'll hold this up. Let's see if that works. Is that cool?
I think you got her attention.
Roger, you're trying to call her still, right?
Yes.
Chair, you want to turn off yours in case you're the one that's showing? Looks like she's leaning into.
Yeah, she's reading it now.
Sorry, I
Oh,
think
yeah.
I accidentally turned off my sound. What was,
Can you
Can you hear us?
hear us now?
Can you hear me?
I can, yes,
Okay.
sorry.
Everybody
Yeah,
else come back.
we're in a roll call now, Commissioner.
I'm
We're
here.
waiting for your vote. Okay. So maybe, Mr. Secretary, maybe we can start, from the beginning again.
Start over?
Yeah, start over.
Sure. Commissioner Bergstein?
Here.
Commissioner Copeland? Commissioner Copeland?
Oh, no.
Commissioner Copeland. Okay, she
Out
voted it.
again. She seems frozen.
We're having some issues, I guess.
Commissioner Ayers, what did it look like for you?
Oh, I thought that the staff was still setting things up. I just didn't hear anything.
Okay. I think Commissioner Copeland's on now. Or you were frozen for a minute.
I can hear you.
We're waiting for your
Oh.
here.
We're doing roll call over again. Commissioner Copeland?
Here.
Commissioner Ayers?
Here,
Commissioner Kerpes?
Here.
Commissioner Maggio?
Here.
Vice Chair O'Keefe?
Here.
Chair Topshin?
Here, we have a quorum. Thank you, and approval of agenda, tonight's agenda. Commissioners, do we have a motion to approve the agenda items before us?
so moved.
Second.
I think Commissioner Copeland's frozen again. She had one edit to the minutes.
Yes, I do.
Oh, I think we have to vote on the agenda first, right? Before the minutes.
My apologies.
Yeah, the approval of agendas. Somebody motion to approve it.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Commissioner Ayers made a motion to approve the agenda items. Who was the second?
Second.
I was.
Commissioner Kerpes was the second. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Abstain? No, I guess. All right, the agenda is approved. Approval of minutes from the last meeting. From the last meeting that was March 11th. Commissioners, I have a couple of amendments to the minutes from the last meeting. Mr. Secretary, I guess because we're still having these technical issues, and that pretty much the same thing happened last time, I guess. At the last meeting, Commissioner Ayers was included in the roll call and approval of the agenda. She abstained. She didn't vote on the minutes, but it was done before she took the oath of office. So I guess it was an oversight and tiny little mistake because of the technical issues that we always have. So what I would like to do is I would like to notice that in the minutes I guess we can exclude her vote from the approval of agenda and the roll call from the last meeting before she took the oath. All right, that should be corrected. That wouldn't change the outcome of the vote, though.
Chair?
And the other thing I have is under new business, Ida, when staff reported on temporary relocation ordinance, particularly the part that talks about my comments, I just want to be kind of a more accurate about the record. What I supported including a parking, it says he also supported including a parking allowance. So what basically I did is I strongly urged to include a parking allowance or to provide alternative remedies if parking will be affected. So if Mr. Secretary can make that amendment, I would appreciate that.
No problem.
So that is part of my amendments. Any commissioners, you have any other amendments? Anything
I do.
from staff?
If you
You have Commissioner?
if you can hear me, no.
Yes, Commissioner Copeland.
Can you hear me? Okay, great. Under the comments, did Mr. Holub and staff for their efforts on the draft relocation ordinance and updating the rent stabilization ordinance in general. It wasn't the smoking. There were some technical issues during that, so I just wanted to clarify that.
Very well, thank you. Vice Chair?
Yes, I just had a question about your tweaks. The way it was worded at the roll call, it doesn't use the word commissioner. It just says Karen Ayers because she became a commissioner after the roll call. And then for the votes, it doesn't say how many people voted how. It just says it was approved. So I don't know if the commission secretary has what he needs for your amendments, or if you think it's fine as is because it just says approved. It didn't specifically say that Commissioner Ayers voted for it since she wasn't a commissioner.
I felt I had to make this at least to go on the record with this because it's been recorded because we tell about everything is online. It's been recorded that she participated in the roll call and in voting for the agenda. Although the minutes they don't explicitly state Commissioner Ayers vote yes or no, but because it was on the record, I just wanted to correct the record that she did not participate in the agenda approval.
So Commission Secretary, do you have what you need? Do you need more clarity if Chair Topshin wants to add language, or is the language itself good and you just wanted to state that for the record?
Yeah, I can make a note.
Okay.
Okay, cool.
But thank you for pointing that out, Vice Chair. Other amendments? I see none. Okay, all right. With that, do we have a motion to approve the minutes as amended?
So moved.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and we have a second. I think we should do a roll call because of the technical difficulties. Mr. Secretary.
Commissioner Bergstein?
Aye.
Commissioner Copeland? She's frozen again.
Yeah, there's some issues with connection. Commissioner Copeland, can you hear us?
Yes.
You might want to take your video off. The audio might be better if it's not trying to do video too.
Aye.
Commissioner
Can you
Ayers?
hear me now?
Yes, thanks. Commissioner Ayers?
Aye.
Commissioner Kirpies?
Aye.
Commissioner Maggio?
Aye.
Vice Chair O'Keefe?
Hi.
Chair Topshin?
Yes. So the minutes are approved. Thank you, commissioners. Mr. Secretary, do we have any public comments at this time?
None at this time.
Okay, we don't have public speakers. Moving on to the next item, which is the manager's report. We have acting rent stabilization and housing manager, Mr. Jonathan Holub. Good evening, sir.
Good evening. Thank you, Chair. Good evening, Commissioners. Jonathan Holub, Acting Manager, Rent Stabilization and Housing Division. Tonight, we're going to be discussing the valuation guidelines and recommending the formation of an ad hoc committee to look at that. At the next meeting, we have an appeal, once again, D4460. At the April 22nd meeting, we're going to be looking at an adjustment of the security deposit interest formula. At the May 13th meeting, I intend on bringing forward some technical amendments to the regulations. May 27th, we have another appeal on calendar, D4567. Nothing currently set for June 10th. On June 24th, we have the annual general adjustment. And then on July 8th, we'll do the reorganization with the appointment of the new chair and vice chair. I'd also like to add that the City Council extended the eviction moratorium through June 30th, 2021 at its March 15th meeting. This means that in addition to a moratorium for non-payment due to COVID-related reasons, the moratorium includes all evictions except those related to non-payment for non-COVID related reasons, illegal use of the unit, dangerous and unsanitary conditions of the unit, or an imminent threat to the health and safety of the occupants. So the entirety of the eviction moratorium is now through June 30th, 2021. I also wanted to mention that the COVID relief program is now accepting applications from landlords and tenants. If anyone is interested in that, they should visit the Housing is Key website at housingiskey.com. It's a very useful website for information and to sign up if you're interested in applying for that program. There's a lot of good information. And as a reminder, information about these issues can be found at the city's website. That's weho.org. And if you click the coronavirus banner at the top of the welcome page, you will be brought to a page that has renters resources. Click on that, and there's a link to the Housing is Key website and also information about the eviction moratorium and other renter resources are available there. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Manager. Okay, questions? Yeah, Commissioner Curtis first, and then Commissioner Maggio.
Yeah, thank you for mentioning the housingiskey.com and the COVID relief. That's what I was going to mention in my remarks. I had a question about what you just said about can you restate what you just said about the eviction moratorium extension? I think I may have misheard it.
Sure. So there was already an extension in place by the state law SB 91, which extended to June 30th, 2021, the moratorium for non-payment due to COVID-related reasons. At the time that came into place, the city's remaining reasons remaining bases for the moratorium were only through March 31st. So at the March 15th City Council meeting, the City Council extended all the other moratorium provisions through to June 30th as well. And the only reasons a tenant can be evicted now, even during the eviction moratorium period, are non-payment for non-COVID related reasons, illegal use of the unit, a dangerous or unsanitary condition in the unit, or there's an imminent threat to the health and safety of the occupants.
Thank you. Yeah, I misheard it the first time you said it. Sorry. And then I just had a question about: are we through the backlog of appeals? It seemed like there for a while we had heard that there were quite a few appeals and hearings with the hearing examiner had been delayed through COVID. Are those no longer? Is there no longer a backlog, and are those being done in a timely manner now?
It's getting much better. I'm not sure we're 100% yet, but we're in addition to the longer term hearing examiner we have getting almost caught up. We've added some hearing examiners to our panel, and I anticipate that through the spring we're going to be back on track.
And with appeals, do we have a lot of appeals still, or is it those trickle in as they come in?
What's on calendar here is what we have currently filed.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Commissioner Maggio next.
This is a question for the manager in regard to affordable housing, specifically low and moderate income. There's not been a recertification of those rents last year, and it doesn't seem like it's happening this year. Can you tell me if that is something that's on hold as well?
That's not on hold. That's being processed by staff right now.
And who will do the recertification? The city, or does the specific buildings also do that, right? Or they have in the past?
I have staff working on that right now. Let me report back to you at the next meeting and tell you what's going on with that, okay?
Thank you very much.
Other questions? I just wanted to clarify, it caught my attention. Mr. Manager, you mentioned that the reasons under which the tenants currently can be evicted, and you mentioned only 2 or 3 of them: non-payment of rent, non-COVID related, and you mentioned also illegal use and also sanitary condition of the unit. So we're not really saying those are no fault reasons, right? Because the illegal use illegal use is a no fault eviction. It cannot be a fault eviction. So basically, we're saying that a tenant can be evicted even for no fault reason, which is the illegal use of the unit.
Well, that would be a grounds for eviction. I'm not sure I understand the question. I'm
Well,
sorry.
You know that when we say a tenant fault evictions, when the unit is illegal and the tenant has to be legally relocated, evicted, right? The owner has to pay the relocation fees and file the paperwork with the city and legally evict the tenant. So that is an at-fault eviction when the unit is illegal. So I thought that at this time, the only reasons for evictions can be when it's the tenant's fault, like no payment of rent, or if it's a nuisance, or if it's a breach of contract, things like that. But I'm confused why the illegal use of the unit could be a reason to evict the tenant now. That would the city pursue the payment of relocation fees at this time?
I think there might be a misunderstanding about what illegal use means.
Okay.
Illegal use is a use by the tenant in some illegal fashion.
Oh, so if the tenant is kind of misusing the unit,
right?
It's not that the tenant is occupying, let's say, a converted garage or something like that.
No.
Oh, okay. So
I mean, if there was a health, but there's another reason. There's a health and safety basis as well. I mean, tenants can't remain in a unit where it's detrimental to their
correct.
To their life.
But in those cases, probably the payment of relocation fees will be applicable, right?
Yes.
Okay, so yeah, when you mentioned illegal use, it just caught my attention. I thought, okay, so are evicting the tenants, allowing the evictions from the converted garages or converted storage rooms or something. But I believe it's the city will not process those relocation applications at this time because of the COVID, unless, as you mentioned, if it's a condition that is hazardous and cannot be occupied.
Right.
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify that. Thank you. Vice Chair O'Keefe?
Since we're talking about evictions, I thought it might be helpful for anybody who's watching to hear about the resources the city offers for legal defense for anyone for the few reasons for eviction that remain. So would you mind, Manager, just saying a few words about that? You're muted.
I'm trying to keep in the spirit of technical difficulties tonight. So the Betzedek Legal Services is offering no cost eviction defense to West Hollywood residents. That information is also available on the website. And let me just get the exact information for that. Yes, if you go to the site I described earlier, if you click the coronavirus banner at the WehoTV website and then click on rental assistance, renter resources, there's a link to the, there's a drop down, legal assistance. And at that point, you can find Betzedek Legal Services, the tenant defense program, and there's a phone number and the link to the WeHo Housing Defense scheduling service. So if anyone who's interested or who needs that resource can use that link, call the phone number, or use the special email that's been set up just for that program. And they're all listed right there on the website.
Thank you. I'm very glad that our city put that in place, and it just happened to be right before coronavirus hit.
More questions, commissioners? I have another one, Mr. Manager, regarding May 13th meeting regulation amendments. So these are amendments that would be proposed by staff, by the department.
Yeah, I'd like to bring some technical amendments at that point. I think there's a bunch to make. I'm not sure they'd all be brought at that time, but yeah, they'd be staff generated.
Staff generated. So those would not include anything from the study session discussions that we had?
From the study sessions, it might. I'd have to go back and see if there's a overlap. But if you want to discuss that with me, I'd be happy to talk about.
Okay, all right, we'll do. Thank you. Okay, if no other questions, thank you, Mr. Manager, for the report tonight. And let's see if commissioners will have any comments at this time. Commissioner Maggio?
Yes, actually, the manager can answer this if he will, unless he needs more time and bring it back to us. But when we had our discussion in the minutes in regard to relocation, Commissioner Kirby's asked if the per diem would be adjusted along the U.S. General Services Administration rates, and you answered no, the consumer price index. So what I need to know is how do they differ and when applied?
Well, the GSA rates are updated by the U.S. General Services Administration, so there's no need to track those along the rate of inflation, since those are updated every year anyway. But the other amenities that the landlord would be required to provide, such as pet accommodations, meals, and laundry, are not being tracked along the GSA numbers, which of course there isn't a laundry or a pet accommodation in that table. There are for meals, but we're using a different meal amount. So those three items would be adjusted for inflation. At least that's the proposal at this time.
Would it be helpful to get a table at some point to visually see the comparisons?
You mean for the GSA?
Yes, versus the consumer price index.
I can look into that.
All right, thank you very much. That was my question.
Thank you. Other commissioners? Any comments at this time? Vice Chair O'Keefe?
Yeah, so I just wanted to mention, since the residential smoking ban for existing tenants came up last time, what happened at the last city council meeting. Council member Mayor Pro Tem Meister flagged that she thought it was possible that, or likely that, under the wording of the rent stabilization ordinance, that people could be evicted for smoking in their units. It had provided that they couldn't as a nuisance, but there could have been other grounds. So that's being looked into. And then separately, Councilmember Shine raised the issue of disabled residents having an exception in case they cannot physically walk up and down out of their unit. And Mayor Pro Tem Meister raised the same issue for seniors and her concern about public safety in that regard, if people had to go outside to smoke. So they're going to consider it again at a later date with those two issues considered.
Thank you. Vice Chair, other commissioners? All right, and that was going to be my comment, Vice Chair, and thank you for bringing that up. And yes, it was Mayor Pro Tem Meister. So there was a problem there, and I'm glad she pulled it and was supported by the council. And hopefully those issues will be addressed to make sure that the, although the smoke ordinance, if the council believes it's important to adopt the smoking ordinance, but they definitely see that there is a problem and potential evictions, and they just want to prevent that from happening. Make sure that the tenants, long-term tenants, especially tenancies prior to January 1st, 2012, will not be evicted. And that is consistent with the state law, because that January 1st, 2012 is the year when the state adopted the smoking law. So I was glad to see that, and yeah, everything you said, Commissioner O'Keefe, I'm not going to repeat. And yeah, let's see what happens. Let's see what will be our next at the next meeting when it goes back. Commissioner Kurpis?
I just have a question then. So or is that going to come back to the commission then, or what did we decide last month about the agenda item discussion?
I don't think we, that's a question for, to manager. Commissioner Kurpis. Commissioner Kurpis?
Yeah.
That's for the
Sorry.
manager? You asked the manager, right?
I guess, yes.
Okay.
Well, first of all, I don't remember if we said, yes, it'll go on to a future agenda. But if it is, then is that going to be on I didn't see it on our manager's report.
Well, I don't remember if we were going to put something on the agenda, but let's see what Mr. Manager has to say about it.
Well, the item is going to be returned to council at its next council meeting, so we can wait to see what happens. And then, as I mentioned, I think at the last meeting, if it's passed, and depending on the form it's passed in, staff can come back at some point in the near future with a presentation on what it all means for the residents.
We didn't end up passing a resolution on it. I had proposed one and then withdrew it, so.
Oh, thank you. That's what I was confused about.
Right. Okay. Other questions, comments? Seeing none. All right. Thank you, commissioners. We don't have any appeals tonight. So the next item on the agenda we have is the new business. And which is under this item, we will review the evaluation guidelines, and the commission will be presented with a comparison of valuation guidelines and regulations from other jurisdictions, and consider the formation of an ad hoc committee to address revisions to the guidelines. And Mr. Manager, I know that you are going to proceed with this.
Thank you, Chair. Good evening again. Jonathan Hollow, Acting Manager in Stabilization Housing Division. Tonight, the Commission will consider the formation of an ad hoc committee to address the revisions or possible revisions to the valuation guidelines. As stated in the staff report, valuation guidelines are intended only to provide guidance to the hearing examiner in making valuation determinations of lost or diminished housing services. In West Hollywood, the determination is made pursuant to Regulation 60041B, which indicates the factors to be considered in making the valuation. These factors are the extent to which the reduction in services affects the tenant of a given rental unit, the relative significance of the reduced service in relation to the safety, health, convenience, and comfort of a tenant, the prevailing market value of the housing service in question as a rental amenity, the extent to which the tenant was led to rely upon the fact that the service would be provided, and other such factors as are deemed to be relevant by the hearing examiner. Of course, the hearing examiner may consider the valuation guidelines, but the West Hollywood regulations do not require that they do so, nor are they integrated into the regulations, unlike Santa Monica and Los Angeles. In Santa Monica, the valuations are to be followed, and a deviation is only permitted upon clear and convincing proof that under the circumstances of a particular case, a decrease within the range would be either inadequate or excessive in relation to the condition giving rise to the condition. Whereas in Los Angeles, while they also integrate a range for valuation, the values are not binding. As noted in the staff report, the valuation guidelines came into being in 2001 in order to assist the hearing examiner. Staff at that time established the value of maintenance and housing services by researching the range of monthly costs for such items, determining the critical nature of an item, and making approximations, some of which were a reasonable estimate. In 2014, the Commission revisited the guidelines by forming an ad hoc committee. That committee worked with staff to take a closer look at the guidelines and consider a mechanism for an appropriate adjustment. Based on the work of the ad hoc committee, the guidelines were adjusted upward and regularly adjusted for inflation since that time. As shown in the staff report presented to you this evening, there are some similarities with West Hollywood's valuation ranges when compared to Santa Monica and Los Angeles. But there are also some fairly significant differences, both in amounts and ranges. Given the disparities in approach among local jurisdictions and the Commission's expressed interest in revisiting this issue, staff recommends establishing an ad hoc committee as it did in 2014 to look more carefully at the issue and to have this ad hoc committee return to the full commission no later than July 8th, added to its July 8th meeting to make any recommendations at that time. Thank you, and I'm available for any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Manager. If commissioners, if you don't mind, let me the first round, let me go by the alphabetical order, and then you can raise your hand at any point if you want to add something after that. All right. It's easy for me to kind of focus on who spoke first and what recommendations, suggestions, or questions were raised. Let's begin with Commissioner Bergstein.
No questions for staff this time. I'll reserve my comments for the discussion afterwards.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Copeland?
Yes, I will have a question in a little while, if you could come back.
Okay. Commissioner Ayers?
No questions at this time.
No question. Commissioner Kurpis?
I don't think I have any questions at this time.
Commissioner Maggio?
My only question for Jonathan about this ad hoc, how do you propose the ad hoc to meet? Would it be a FaceTime, or a Zoom, I guess? I think.
Well, during the current conditions, it would certainly be remote.
A what? I'm sorry?
It would be remote. It would be through a platform like Zoom or the city's Teams virtual meeting platform.
Okay, because we've never done this before, so I'm curious what is recommended. Thank you.
Vice Chair O'Keefe, questions?
So I was wondering if in your research you looked into if there are any court cases if anybody's been sued successfully for evaluation guidelines anywhere, if part of the analysis was of the law, and if not, if that's something that might be included in the to report to the ad hoc commission.
I think we should look deeper into that, but there's nothing that I found that was directly on point at this juncture. It doesn't appear that it's been directly challenged, but we will look deeper into that.
That was my only
Thanks.
question. Thanks.
Thank you. A couple of questions maybe with clarification, Mr. Manager. How many members for ad hoc committee we can have? We have 7 members now, which is different from the previous commission, which was 5 members. We had 2 people at the ad hoc committee, and I was one of them. How many commissioners can join the this ad hoc committee?
No more than 3.
No more than 3. All right. Thank you. So, and as I mentioned, I was a member of the last one. You mentioned 2014, or it was even before that? For some reason, it seems like 2014, so kind of so close. I think it was a long time ago. I remember Commissioner Gail Sands was also a member. Together, we served on that ad hoc committee. It was 14.
Well, you might have started in 13 since the report came
Okay.
in
Oh,
early 14. So it might have actually started in 13. That's true.
I see. Okay.
We had an ad hoc with Commissioner Bergstein, myself, and you at the sheriff's station. That was the last one.
No, that was not the ad hoc for regarding the reduction of services,
That's
if I'm
true.
not mistaken. Yeah, it was a different, we were discussing a different topic. Yeah, reduction of the guidelines. You also mentioned, Mr. Manager, you also mentioned that since 2014, the guidelines were, the figures, the amounts have changed based on the, what you said, inflation. Do you know, do you have a record how many times it's been updated since that time, since 2014? Can't hear you.
I really did click it, but
Yeah, it's
not
okay.
Okay. I believe it's been every year, and the most recent is reflected as 1920. So I don't
Okay.
know if it was done at any point in the last.
Again, as a matter of fact, I have the, which appears to be the last one, 1920 guidelines before me. And I think we're going to discuss this, the mechanism, because that's also, one of the important things, how we're going to, what is the mechanism for it? Is it through the CPI increases, or just like a rent increase, or is it what the mechanism they use to do this increase? So that would be really interesting to know. Also, it is important. Well, that's not a question. That's a comment which I'm going to bring up later on. So I guess those are the questions at this time. But later, if we have any questions, we still can ask the Mr. Manager, I believe, so during the comments. I mean, during the discussion. So with that, thank you, Mr. Manager, and the commissioners who would like to begin first with the comments. So Commissioner Corpus, and then followed by Commissioner Maggio.
Yeah, I would like to formally move the item if we're to talk about it, to set up the ad hoc committee. And the only comments I have, and I'll call it direction, I don't know if they'll take it or not, but the comments I have I hope that the ad hoc committee would look into and consider is, on this list, I noticed that they had a dryer, both common and in the unit, and a washer in the common area, but not a washing machine in the unit. So if we could just add that to complete that. Increases in, guidance on when common area washer and dryers, the landlord might increase the price. It might only be a quarter, but it's quarter per wash and per dry. So what to do in those sorts of situations, some guidance. And then just overall, and this might be outside the scope of the ad hoc committee, but one of the issues that often comes up over the years is situations where a service is removed due to no action, due to a reason that the city may, a code enforcement reason. So I just wanted to have the ad hoc committee also consider and discuss and research, possibly putting in our ordinance a notation that states, somewhere to the effect of, while the removal of a service due to code compliance may be factored into the value of the service, it should not alone be considered for the elimination. It shouldn't automatically remove the value of the service to zero. That it should be done on a case by case. And I think that the reason for that, even though the commission has tended to follow that rule, I think that giving everybody, all participants, the landlord and the tenant, advance notice might cut down on some of the appeals. And that's all the comments I have.
Thank you. Commissioner Maggio?
Yeah, I don't know if amazed is the word I should use, but these three cities are so different. Santa Monica giving the most, Los Angeles being so tight they squeak, and West Hollywood, sort of in the middle. But there were a few items in the description that really brought to my attention some doubt in regard to air conditioning. For instance, our range is 8 to 91 and Santa Monica is up to 220, which seems so odd, a city on the ocean. Garbage disposals, where we only go up to $21 and Santa Monica up to $350, which is echoed with heating, $220 to our 91. I was also perplexed by the parking. We losing a parking space, the valuation is about 82 to 165. LA wants to give you up to 231, but Santa Monica up to $550. Well, we are the most dense city, 1.9 square miles, 37,000 population, approximately 18,000 per square mile. So losing a parking space really, to me, would seem to be far more valuable. And the other one I wanted to bring to your attention was storage, which is the one area that Los Angeles gives you up to $795, where Santa Monica 220 And our highest range is $65. I found that to be also perplexing. Those are my comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Maggio. Commissioner, who's next? Who wants to speak next? Commissioner Bergstein, please.
Yeah, I'll be voting in favor of staff's recommendation, just with a couple of quick comments. One, when you choose who will be serving on this ad hoc committee, my suggestion is that you also have an alternate. The makeup of this commission may be a little different come next month. There are still a couple of slots that have not been named, so couldn't hurt to have one person in the back pocket in case someone is not reappointed. Secondly, we've struggled with an issue that's not really clarified in the valuation guidelines. We've seen more cases when landscaping has been removed, that it increases the sunlight and heating. But we also had a case last year where a tenant asked for a reduction in rent because they said that the vegetation become overgrown and was now blocking their sunlight. And we kind of struggled with a valuation to place on kind of an increase in landscaping. So I would ask that maybe the ad hoc committee consider that valuation as well. And those are my comments.
Thank you. Who wants to speak next? Commissioner Copeland?
Hi, if you can hear me, if not, I'll turn my video off.
No, we can hear you. We can hear you.
You can, okay.
Yes.
I had a question. I was looking on this list and I don't see anything for, as far as utilities, there is something for satellite dish. There's nothing for internet. And Manager Holland may remember there was a situation a little while back where the internet and cable were included in the rent and the landlord removed them. And I think there was the confusion about the valuation, and it ended up being about $20 for internet and about $30 for cable. And the property owner said, well, it would cost me at least $108, so I'll just let the tenant's rent basically went up about $68 a month. So I don't see anything on our list really as far as utilities. Such as internet, is that something that can be added?
Okay.
Is that something that could be added maybe to the list? Things like internet and utilities and so forth.
Thank you, Commissioner. Vice Chair O'Keefe, I saw your hand.
Yeah, so I appreciate, I think Chair Topchin, this was your idea in the first place. So thank you for bringing it up. And thank you to staff, Manager Holub and others who worked on it to create this. I think it's a good idea. My only suggestion would be kind of what I alluded to before, making sure that there's a consideration of any legal issues, both looking at and having a report to those members that are part of the ad hoc commission on any relevant court cases, but even if this specifically hasn't been litigated, any general things that need to be kept in mind to, reduce the chance of it being litigated and having anything be overturned in the future. So I think those were my only suggestions. There were a couple of other things too that I didn't see on the list, like pools or gyms. And I don't know if this is meant to be comprehensive or not, but those are two things I thought of that might also be worth including. And also, I don't think that I would have the time to be on it, so I personally wouldn't be asking to be a member of it or volunteering.
Thank you. Thank you, Vice Chair. Commissioner Ayers?
I will also be voting in favor of adopting this ad hoc committee. And the comment I have is I'm a little concerned about the July 8th deadline of being able to report back to the commission with recommendations. I'm just not familiar with what kind of workload this is going to be, how often the committee will be meeting, and whether that's a reasonable timeline. But I will, follow the guidance of the people who've been here longer than me and the city staff that this is doable. And I imagine that if for some reason we needed more time, we could ask for it.
Sure, if you don't mind, I can address that for the commissioner right now, and it might be helpful for everyone else as well.
Sure, Ms. Natalizio.
So for an ad hoc committee, because it's not a Brown Act body, there's no formal meeting times. It's not formally set. So it's just whenever the ad hoc committee meets, they can meet. In order for it to be outside of the scope of the Brown Act, there's some requirements that Acting Manager Hullab addressed in his staff report. And one of them is that it has to be for a limited duration. So I think the July 8th date was just set for the purpose of making sure it complies with that, but it can be extended. It's not, it just has to be limited, and it can't be continuous and perpetual. So that's just the set date. I think if the commission wanted to deliberate and set it out further, that's fine. So I just wanted to address that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Natalizzi. All right, commissioners, I have a couple of comments. First, somebody brought up the parking issue and the guidelines and the evaluation guidelines that show not a really significant amount when the parking service is reduced. So, but just like other cities, Santa Monica or City of Los Angeles, they have a higher range of for the parking reduction. Well, in West Hollywood, we have a strong ordinance, which I guess other jurisdictions, if I'm not mistaken, they don't have it yet. Which in West Hollywood, it states that parking is an inseparable part of the rental unit, so it cannot be removed. It can be considered a misdemeanor, and and the city attorney may bring charges against the owner. So now it's it's, to me, it's confusing. I guess it's more like a question, but we don't have to spend the time to discuss that. But to me, in my mind, it's a question. So if we're saying that's a separable part, then why we're pursuing a rent reductions for removal of parking? So that's probably one of the things that we should, look into that when the ad hoc committee is formed, to see if whether we're increasing the amount of parking reduction for parking removal, or we're just saying that the parking cannot be removed, period, unless if it was an illegal use or illegal parking space that must be removed because it's in violation of the healthy or habitability code or whatever code, and that would require reduction. So that's one of the thoughts that came up to me right now when we mentioned parking. I agree that ad hoc committee should add some more items, although these are suggested guidelines. We cannot, it is practically, it's impossible to include each and every possible service or amenity or privilege that the tenant may negotiate at the time of renting. So the general philosophy should be is whatever the tenant rented at the time of the, whatever the tenant paid at the time of renting, whatever was included in the unit, that should become a part of the housing service provided by the landlord. So we don't really need to list each and every possible thing, but if I'm for it to expand the list if we want to do it, if we want to add some things that are not here, because we already have like a big list. City of Los Angeles, they don't really have a huge list of things. So, but they would pursue a rent reduction for a service, even if it's not on the list, on the suggested guidelines. And I believe, and I'm pretty sure that our examiners, they also do the same thing, even if the service is established that it was provided at the time of renting, but it's not listed. I cannot bring up like as an example, but whatever the service might be, if it's not listed, I believe the examiner will still pursue a rent reduction. What will be used, what type of, what dollar amount would be used, that would be always, I think, suggest, well, it's hard to say how the examiners would decide what the amount of reduction for a certain service will be if that service is not identified on the list. It's always subjective, right? So, but that's a secondary question. And I think if commissioners, a couple of commissioners spoke in favor of it, and I'm also in favor of expanding the list. But if a service is not on the list, the rent reduction should still be applicable. So I guess that's the point I'm trying to make. What I wanted to mention is that, yes, these guidelines are just suggested guidelines. So nothing prevents the examiner to go above and beyond or less what is suggested here. So that's why we have a ranges, like, let's say, I don't know, refrigerator, 82, the floor, $117 is the ceiling, but these are the ranges. If the examiner, based on whatever factors, decides that this was such a substantial reduction that the reduction should go above $117, the examiner may reach that decision. Or the examiner may decide, no, $82 is way too much, it should be $50. That's the examiner's subjective approach. So what I like to see really is more like a organized thought by the examiner, or maybe a justification or at least analysis, at least for those cases that come before us, so that we know how the examiner came to that particular amount. Because what really bothers me, to be honest with you, and I've been on this commission since 2004, and this issue has been bothering me for so many years. When you see that the examiner, and I always put myself in the examiner's shoes and say, why did the examiner use at least $2, for example, rent reduction for this service? If I was the examiner, I could easily do like $20 as a per se, right? So I want to see more of like a thought of the examiners, why the examiners using that. I don't know if that legally is possible or not. That's we can, ad hoc committee may discuss that, but I would recommend that should be included some sort of a justification analysis why this particular lower end or a higher end was used. Because let me remind you that under regulations 641, subsection B or section B, it specifically talks about the factors, the justification for this rent reduction. And that includes the significance of the reduced service in relation to the health, safety, convenience, and comfort, prevailing market value, and I think Manager Holub mentioned all this, prevailing market value of the housing service in question, the extent to which the tenants were led to rely upon the fact that the service would be provided. Those are very strong factors. So if this is very important. This is very important to make sure that the examiners are fully using this provision, because this was one of the amendments that the ad hoc committee in 2014 recommended, and it was included for the examiners to use these factors and to be able to kind of justify or analyze, not just take the lower end or a higher end, but be able to provide that that kind of analysis or justification why they're using that particular amount. So why I'm saying is that
point of order. We're getting off topic here.
What I'm saying is that when I'm saying, thank you for mentioning that. So what I'm saying is that I've seen those very low rent reductions, and I truly believe actually these days, with the rents historically high in West Hollywood.
Here, I'm going to interject. I think the only thing before us on the agenda tonight is to vote on forming this ad hoc committee. We're starting to get kind of bogged into issues that may come up during that ad hoc and may come up back when it's brought for discussion. But I think the only thing on the agenda tonight is either approving or
that was
not.
My recommendation, as other commissioners mentioned there, as other commissioners suggested their recommendations for the ad hoc committee to discuss things. So I am also providing my recommendation to the future ad hoc committee to include some items. And I hope that staff is making notes of those comments. Maybe I went a little bit beyond the explanation, but I wanted to justify and clarify why I'm suggesting this and that. So, well, anyways, we will have plenty of time to discuss this. But the point is that the suggested guidelines should be, should reflect the current reasonable value market of the services that we have now, because they are not I believe they're not really representing the current value market when the service is reduced. So that ad hoc committee should also consider that. So that now the thing is, I'm definitely in support of the forming the ad hoc committee. There's no question about it. And if the commission finds necessary, I will be happy to be part of it again. We'll be happy to serve as a member again, but it's up to the commission. Commissioner Maggio, please.
I would suggest that we hold off forming an ad hoc committee for 1 month till we know what the makeup of our full body would be.
I would oppose that. I would suggest that we just move forward, and if somebody doesn't get reappointed, that we just reappoint somebody else.
Well, then we'll have to do it all over again.
Just one person.
It could be, well, all right.
Other comments, commissioners, at this time?
I move that we vote on the proposal to form an ad hoc committee.
I
Second.
will,
Oh, sorry.
it's okay, either way.
Okay, so we have a motion to form ad hoc committee, and we have a seconded by Commissioner Purpose, right? And Mr. Secretary, let's have a roll call, please.
Commissioner Bergstein,
Aye.
Commissioner Copeland,
Aye.
Commissioner Ayers,
Aye.
Commissioner Kirby's,
Aye.
Commissioner Maggio,
All right, I would vote aye. All right.
Vice Chair O'Keefe,
Aye.
Chair Topchin.
Aye. So motion passes. Thank you, everyone. So now I guess we're gonna form the committee. And as Manager Holub said, we need 3 members. Okay, Commissioner Purpose.
I personally would be interested, but I also would recommend that you be on it because you served on the ad hoc committee prior, and would be helpful to have your experience from when you and Gail served on it.
Thank you. Commissioner Ayers.
I'm also interested in serving on it. I think it would be a good learning experience for me, but also we need someone like you who's had that experience before.
Thank you very much. Other commissioners, anyone would like to volunteer to serve, or any ideas, any comments? We need 3 members, so I would, I would like to serve, and I thank the commissioners who supported me being on the committee. But we need more people. So who wants to serve?
I think there's 3 volunteers, am I correct? Yourself,
Yeah.
Commissioner Kirby, Commissioner Ayers, yes?
Commissioner Ayers.
Commissioner Ayers, you would not only be a learning experience, but your perspective, I think, would be most valuable on that group.
Okay.
Thank you.
And Commissioner Copeland, did you not have an interest?
Commissioner Copeland.
Yeah, I would be happy to do it, but we just need 3, so I think that's already been spoken for.
I mean, if you would want to do it more than me, I mean, that's fine. Or you know that I might not be reappointed, so you might be the backup.
Either way, I would be happy to do it or to be a backup. Either way.
Can I ask a point of clarification from council? Can we have a backup for even if somebody just can't make a specific meeting? That's not that often in the Zoom time, but can you have a backup and there just be 3 people that are physically on it, or does the body itself have to just be 3 people?
Yeah, so in order to avoid being subject to the Brown Act, it just has to be 3 people, the same 3 people. And my advice would be also to not appoint a alternate or a backup. Again, we just want to avoid anyone being able to point to any sort of argument that says there was a majority of the body. So my advice would be to appoint 3, and if for some reason one person has to is gone, or even they just say I don't want to do this, then we could just go back and appoint somebody else.
For the record, I was using that term lightly.
All right, do we need to take a vote on this, or how does this
So
work?
we have we have Commissioner Ayers, right? We have Commissioner Kerpis, and also I volunteered. So now we should probably vote on this.
We can
and-
let, that's all right. I'll save all my comments when it comes back to the commission. And so go ahead, Commissioner Copeland, if you want to. You do the hard work.
Okay, that would be Commissioner Copeland. You're accepting it?
Yes, thank you.
All right.
I'd be happy.
Okay, so then we have Commissioner Ayers, Commissioner Copeland, and myself, and we will need the commission to vote on this on appointment of the ad hoc committee members. Mr. Secretary, can we have a roll call?
Commissioner Bergstein,
Aye.
Commissioner Copeland,
Aye.
Commissioner Ayers,
Aye.
Commissioner Kerpes,
Aye.
Commissioner Maggio,
Aye.
Vice Chair O'Keefe,
Aye.
Chair Topsy.
Aye. Thank you. Thank you, commissioners, and the motion passes so that we have formed the ad hoc committee to work with staff on revising, if needed, if necessary, the valuation guidelines. So we will probably, staff will let us know when we will meet and how we're going to meet, and all that stuff will be organized by the management, by staff. All right, so there is nothing under that item. New business. The next is public comments.
Sorry, Chair, I don't mean to keep bombing
Okay.
the meeting.
Sure. All right. Before we move on to okay.
Just regarding when the committee should come back to the commission to report, I do just want to advise that the commission at least give a date in which the committee should come back to report. And if the committee needs more time, then that's fine. Or if the commission wants to grant, 6 months or 9 months or something, that's fine. But I did just want the commission to have some sort of deliberation about an actual time frame, deliberation or duration.
Okay. We need to come up with a date now. The commission.
Commissioner
That to
O'Keefe's
me, be done with the
recommendation,
work by.
wasn't Commissioner O'Keefe your motion to accept staff's proposal?
Yeah, I didn't word it that way, but that's what I meant.
Oh.
The date that was already in the proposal, which was July of 2021. Would that be an acceptable date?
I
Council?
apologize if that was the motion. I apologize. I missed it. So sorry, man. But that
I
was
was not clear, but that was my intent. Does anybody want to revisit the date, or since I was not clear that that's what I meant? All right, good. We have a date.
We have a date. I thought there should be another date. That's why I wasn't sure, but we already had the date given by.
Chair, if you can lean into your microphone a bit, your voice is going out.
I'm sorry, I had some stuff put on it. So can you hear me now?
Yes, better. Thank you.
Okay, sorry about that. Yeah, so then the July's date, I think it's what staff recommended. So I think it's fine with everybody, right? So the committee will have time to meet and come up with something to report to the commission. Next is public comments. Mr. Secretary, any public speakers at this time?
None at this time.
Not at this time. All right, so then move on to the commissioner's comments. Commissioner Kerpes.
I just wanted to announce that it looks like the governor has announced that starting April 15th, every California 16 and older will be eligible to get a COVID-19 vaccination. I just want to make clear that that's eligible, not necessarily that the vaccine is available. So, but everyone will be eligible April 15th.
Thank you. That's a great update. Commissioner Bergstein.
Yeah, Acting Manager Jonathan Holub, I may have sort of inadvertently increased your workload. Prior to this meeting, I was on a Zoom meeting with the neighborhood watch captains in public safety. And one of the issues that we face is how do we get the word out to our residents that there are neighborhood watches, and it's a good way to stay in touch with what's happening in the city, and particularly with public safety on your street, in your building. And my suggestion, sort of as a marketing tool, Pete Noonan touted that for a couple of years, the city worked on a really amazing overhaul of the database for rent stabilization. And so my suggestion to staff was that when there is a document filed upon new tenancy, re-registration, that new tenant's information, rather that the city contact that new tenant and say, this is your neighborhood watch captain. If you'd like to be involved, here's how you contact them. Not the other way around. We shouldn't be handing out tenants' information to the captains, but making it available to the new tenants to perhaps get more of our residents involved. So I apologize in advance if I've increased your workload, but it might be a good marketing tool. Thank you.
Thank you. Other commissioners? Commissioner Ayers?
No comments at this time, thanks.
Okay. Commissioner Copeland?
I would just like to thank staff. Also, I'd like to wish everyone who celebrates a joyous Passover and a happy Easter. And I think that's about all right now that I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Maggio, haven't spoken yet?
I have no comments.
Okay. Okay. Let me go to Vice Chair O'Keefe and then to you, Josh. Vice Chair
I
O'Keefe.
don't have anything to say, but I'll say keep wearing your masks and keeping distance. The virus is still here and lots of people are still getting sick, even though we see the light at the end of the tunnel, finally, hopefully.
Yeah. Commissioner Corpus.
I just wanted to clarify my earlier comment that, so I'm not quite there yet. I overlooked this part, but April 1st, everyone 50 and older will be eligible for a vaccine. And then April 15th, everybody over 16.
Oh, April 1st.
April 1st.
For everyone over the age of 50 years old. And then April 15th for 16 and older.
Oh, I have like 10 years to go. All right. So I don't really have any comments other than I want to thank Acting Manager Johnson Holla for agendizing this suggested guidelines review and formation of the Ad-Hoc committee. That was, as you can all say, you just already shut me out. But this is I'm very passionate about this, and this is the topic that I work closely with, and I was really I seen things that can be done differently, and obviously in favor of everybody, the residents, the tenants, and the landlords. So, and I want to thank staff for the report, for bringing this up. And also, I want to thank my fellow commissioners, my friends, for trusting in me and delegating to serve on that committee along with other wonderful commissioners. Thank you for that. That is my comment, and staff comments next. Anything from staff?
No comments. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, that brings up to the end of this meeting. This concludes our meeting tonight, and until the next regular meeting of the Rent Stabilization Commission will be held at 7 p.m. on April 8th, 2021 via teleconference. Thank you, everyone. Good night. Get vaccinated. Stay healthy, safe. We'll see you next time. Bye.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night, everyone. Thank you, Commissioner Kerpes.